He says the Bible may have been using symbolism as a way to describe how the one true God, Yahweh, would destroy each of the Egyptian gods.
Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel. My name is Eutychus if you are new, and today's video is not for everyone. So if you are easily offended when people talk about your religion, I advise you to stop watching the video now. Okay, if you're still here, let's get to the video.
Jesus Christ and the Egyptian god Osiris may just be the exact same person, or at least the same mythical figure. Osiris was such a big deal in ancient Egypt that he was worshipped for nearly 3,000 years. People didn't stop worshipping him until roughly 30 BC, less than a century before the birth of Christ. It does seem a little suspicious that immediately after Christ was born, Osiris was old news. Then Jesus showed up with an origin story that was almost identical to Osiris. The story of Osiris revolves around how he became the first mummy. He was betrayed by his brother Set, who tricked him into climbing into a coffin. Set then locks the coffin and throws it into a river with Osiris still inside. The casket somehow lodges itself in a tree, which then quickly grows around it. Later, the king of the area orders for the tree to be used in his palace as a pillar, unaware that the coffin holding Osiris is held inside it. Then, with the help of Anubis, the god of the dead, Osiris's partner Isis discovers that her love is trapped within the king's pillar. She manages to bring the coffin with her back to Egypt, where she consecrates the pillar with linen and myrrh. When Set finds out that Isis plans to bring Osiris back from the dead with magic, he cuts the corpse into many pieces and scatters them all over Egypt. However, Isis finds every piece of Osiris except for his genitals, which had already been eaten by the fish in the Nile. Isis then brings Osiris back from the dead. It was his journey of death, resurrection, and redemption that allowed ordinary Egyptians to become immortal. In other words, Osiris died so that everyone else could live eternally. His story is similar to how Jesus Christ died so that his followers could reach eternal salvation. Many religious scholars believe the Christian narrative took the Egyptian story of Osiris and tweaked it. God sent his only son to earth to die, allowing everyone else to live forever. Both religions are clearly solving the same issue as to how the human soul can reach immortality.
Yeah, so what do you think? Yeah, it does sound similar, but not as this person was trying to put it. I mean, stories are bound to seem the same because we deal with the same concepts as every other group that has ever lived. For example, immortality. For the longest time, people have been dreaming or wishing they could live forever, but I'm not sure if which derived which story from the other. Like was Christianity, was the story borrowed from Egyptian history, or was it the other way around? But I'll say for certain I am not sure, and I look into it. But if you have an idea, you can tell me in the comments section. But it's just interesting, something interesting to know.
Number 4. Sargon and Moses. In ancient Assyria, there was a myth of a king named Sargon. His mother was a high priestess who conceived the child in secret. She placed her son in a reed basket and sent him along the Euphrates River, hoping that someone would find the boy and raise him as their own. The river carried young Sargon to the home of a common laborer, who raised him well. Then, in his youth, Sargon was visited by Ishtar, goddess of storms and warfare. The goddess loved young Sargon, and so she helped him become the king of the Akkadian Empire. He was the first ruler of the United Akkadian Empire, reigning between 2334 BC and 2279 BC. It's unclear how much of his origin story is true, but Sargon was definitely a real ruler, and he was king for 55 years. Hearing Sargon's story, you might notice how close it is to the story of a certain character from the Bible. Moses was also abandoned by his mother, and he was put in a reed basket that was sent sailing down the Nile River. Moses was discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter as she bathed, and he would later lead God's people out of Israel. It's hard not to see the similarities between the two stories. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 3. The Plagues and the Gods of Egypt. According to the Old Testament, God sent 10 devastating plagues to ravage the people of Egypt. In the book of Exodus, the evil Pharaoh refuses to release the chosen people of God from their captivity. So, as Moses prophesied, God unleashed 10 horrors upon the land. But some biblical experts believe the 10 plagues were all references to ancient Egyptian gods. Tom Meyer, a professor at Shasta Bible College in California, recently explained the links between the plagues and the deities of the Egyptian pantheon. He says the Bible may have been using symbolism as a way to describe how the one true God, Yahweh, would destroy each of the Egyptian gods. It didn't have anything to do with plagues, but was about one religion being dominant over the other. For example, the Nile turning into blood could have been meant to represent Yahweh overcoming the god Osiris. This is because the ancient Egyptians believed the Nile was the bloodstream of Osiris. The plague of frogs was related to the frog goddess Heqet. The plague of flies showed the power of God over Hatchit, goddess of the marshes. The plague of pestilence upon animals was directed at the powerful god of strength and war, Apis, like the bull. And the plague of darkness struck directly at the heart of Egyptian religion. It suggested God could snuff out the most powerful Egyptian deity of them all, Ra, the sun itself. Number 2. Little Red Riding Hood. In the Western world, Little Red Riding Hood is a famous story about a young girl who faces off against a big bad wolf. It was originally written as a cautionary tale to travelers, warning them of the dangers lurking in remote and desolate woodlands. In Japan, there is an almost identical story with a creature that seems to mirror the big bad wolf. This creature is called the Okuri Inu. The original story of Little Red Riding Hood likely came from ancient Greece. It centered on a young virgin who was supposed to be sacrificed to a wolf monster. However, a passing hero saw what was about to happen and saved the girl from the ravenous creature. The story has seen many alterations over the years, but the core of it has remained the same. It wasn't until the 17th century that Italian writers turned it into a fairy tale and added the girl's grandmother. The Japanese tale of the Okuri Inu isn't much different. The Okuri Inu is a supernatural wolf that lurks within the dark mountain passes and lonely forests of rural Japan. Legends say the hound follows travelers through the forest waiting for them to fall down, and when they do, it devours them. These stories aren't exactly identical, but they do share the same hidden message. Both stories were cautionary tales from medieval travelers to warn of the dangers of nightly journeys. Specifically, the Okuri Inu and the Big Bad Wolf are metaphors for predatory men who attack lone women that travel alone at night. Number 1.
I didn't know that they were going to talk about other stories apart from the Bible, but it's still interesting, and I just love how interconnected our world is.
Utnapishtim and Noah. The story of the Great Flood that's told in the book of Genesis is almost identical to the flood account told in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Some scholars believe the Bible's Noah is an imitation of Utnapishtim from ancient Babylonia. And yet both stories told in these two ancient tomes may have been referring to the same real event. Many scholars agree there was a global flooding disaster that took place in ancient times. The issue has been trying to pinpoint when it happened, where it happened, and which areas were affected. The Epic of Gilgamesh tells a story of a flood that extinguished all life. The Babylonian god Ea started the flood because he'd grown sick of the wickedness of men. But Ea allowed an ark to be built to safeguard the animals so that some of his creations could be saved. A man named Utnapishtim built a giant ark so that he could protect the animals of the world and start fresh when the floodwaters receded. This is a pretty obvious copy of Noah's story, only it was told over 500 years earlier in 2000 BC. So who copied whom? Thanks for watching! Which of these historical coincidences did you find the most interesting? Let me know in the comments below.
Yeah, that was very interesting video. And yeah, it's good to try and hear contradicting ideas when it comes to something you believe in, you know. Questioning your beliefs is yeah, I think it's good for you. It strengthens your faith if you're religious, or it shows that it shows you what other people think about your belief system. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Do you think these claims are true or false? Tell me your thoughts in the comment section if you're interested. And yeah, thank you for watching, and see you amazing people in the next video.